The hippo closes its mouth around your chest and shoulders, and the last thing you see before the darkness is your own hands, fingers splayed against the ridged gum line, pushing against 400 kilograms of jaw pressure with the desperate authority of someone trying to hold open an elevator door. Then the light disappears, and you are inside. Your first thought, and you will hate yourself for this, if you survive long enough to hate yourself for anything, is that you left the cooler open on the boat, and the windhook laggers are going to get warm. 38 degrees Celsius on the Zambezi today. The beers will be undrinkable in 20 minutes. You think this while your face is pressed against the wet, ridged palate of a 2,000-kilogram bull hippopotamus, and the thought is so perfectly, catastrophically human that it almost makes you laugh. Almost. You would need air to laugh, and air is becoming a subject of professional concern. The inside of a hippo's mouth smells like a compost heap that someone poured battery acid into. Fermented vegetation, anaerobic rot, something chemical and sharp that burns the membranes of your nose. Your arms are pinned at your sides. The lower jaw has closed against your rib cage just below the armpits, and the upper jaw rests across your shoulder blades. You are wearing a 3mm neoprene shorty that you bought in Livingston for $40, and right now it is the only thing between your skin and the textured keratin surface of the animal's palate. The canines, the ones you've measured on skulls, the ones you've pointed out to tourists from the safety of a flat-bottomed aluminum boat, are somewhere behind you, curving inward, like ivory parentheses around the space your torso occupies. You can feel the tips pressing into the neoprene at your lower back. Not puncturing, not yet. Just there. A suggestion. The darkness is total. Not dark room dark. Not eyes closed dark. This is the darkness of being inside a living thing, warm and wet and pulsing. And it is so absolute that your brain starts manufacturing its own light. Phosphines, retinal noise, the hallucinated geometry of a visual cortex with nothing to process. You see purple fractals, green sparks, the face of your mother. That's what does it. The face, not the real face, the hallucinated one. The one your oxygen-deprived brain throws up against the darkness like a projector in an empty cinema. Your mother's face, and suddenly you're not in the Zambezi anymore. You're in Nell Sprout, you're 9 years old, and your mother is standing in the kitchen of the house on Bester Street with a dishcloth over her shoulder, telling you that the dog has to go. The dog was a Ridgeback mix named Sargent, and he had bitten a neighbor's child. Not badly, a scrape on the forearm. But the neighbor was an attorney, and the attorney had used the word liability 3 times in 4 sentences, and your mother had done the math that mothers do. The dog had to go. You had screamed. You had used the word murder. Your mother had looked at you with the particular exhaustion of a woman raising 3 children on a government salary in a town where the spar closed at 5, and she had said, "Nixwat leaf is Junini. Nothing that lives is yours." You had thought she was being cruel. It took you 26 years to understand she was being precise. The hippo shifts. The jaw adjusts. Something in your rib cage makes a sound like a knuckle cracking, except the knuckle is a floating rib and the crack is a fracture. The pain doesn't arrive immediately. It sends an advance team first, a wave of pressure and wrongness, and then the main force lands 3 seconds later, and it is extraordinary. Not sharp, deep. The kind of pain that makes your vision go white, except your vision is already black, so it makes the phosphines strobe. You hear yourself make a sound. It's not a scream. It's the sound a pressurized container makes when it begins to fail. You are 34 years old. You are a river guide for Batoka Sky Lodge, operating on a 12-kilometer stretch of the Upper Zambezi between the Songwe Gorge and the Moemba Falls. You have been doing this for 11 years. You hold a Level 3 field guide qualification from FGASA. You have logged over 6,000 hours on the water. You have told approximately 4,000 tourists that hippopotamuses are herbivores, and every single time you deliver that fact with the same calibrated tone, warm, knowledgeable, lightly amused, because they're herbivores is the sentence that makes the nervous ones relax. The sentence that makes them put the camera back up. The sentence that means they'll tip you well and leave a 5-star review on TripAdvisor, mentioning you by name. They're herbivores. You've said it so many times it sounds like a prayer. What you did not always add, which you sometimes mentioned on the longer trips, when the clients were the type who wanted the full picture, is that the hippopotamus kills more people in sub-Saharan Africa than any other large animal. Between 500 and 3,000 fatalities per year, depending on whose data you trust. Not because it wants to eat you, because it is territorial, because it is fast, because it has a bite force of 1/800 pounds per square inch, and because when it decides that you are in its space, it will defend that space with the focused hydraulic violence of something that has been the apex of its ecosystem for 8 million years. They're herbivores. They just also happen to be the most dangerous large land animal on the continent. You knew this. You knew this the way a roofer knows about gravity, as a theoretical framework that governs someone else's death. In the darkness, you try to take inventory. Your arms are pinned, but your hands have some mobility. Your left hand can flex at the wrist, and your right hand is pressing against something smooth and curved that you realize, with the detached interest of a person in shock, is the inner surface of the animal's lower lip. Your legs are free. They are dangling outside the mouth, and you can feel the sun on your calves and the water against your boots. This means the hippo has surfaced. This means there is air above you, 20 centimeters of skull and muscle and intention above you, and you cannot reach it. Your mind does what it has always done under pressure. It runs the numbers. Bite force, 1/800 psi, verified by Brady Barr's National Geographic measurements in 2004. Your ribcage can withstand approximately 740 pounds of distributed force before catastrophic failure. The neoprene adds nothing structural. The hippo is not currently applying maximum bite pressure. If it were, you would already be in 2 pieces. It is holding you. The way it holds a watermelon before it crushes it for fun, which you have watched it do, which you have filmed on your phone, which you have posted to Instagram, with the caption Monday mood, time. You have been inside the mouth for, you're guessing, 40 seconds, maybe a minute. It feels like a career. The average hippo attack lasts between 30 seconds and 3 minutes. The ones that last 3 minutes end in death. The ones that last 30 seconds end in the ICU at Lusaka General, with a story that people either believe or don't. Oxygen. You took a half breath before the jaws closed. Call it 250 milliliters of tidal volume against your normal 500. At elevated heart rate, which you estimate at 170 BPM, based on the kettle drum in your ears, you have maybe 90 seconds of useful consciousness. After that, hypoxia. After hypoxia, your muscles relax. After your muscles relax, you stop being a rigid object wedged in the mouth, and you become a soft one. And soft objects in a hippo's mouth get crushed. 90 seconds. You are 60 seconds in. Maybe. The second memory arrives without permission. You're in Johannesburg, in the flat in Bramfontein, and Lebo is sitting on the kitchen floor, not on a chair, on the floor, her back against the cabinet under the sink, her knees pulled up, a glass of Chenin Blanc balanced on her kneecap. She is telling you about her day, something about a grant application, something about a colleague who takes credit, something ordinary. And she stops mid-sentence and says, "Come sit." She means the floor. She wants you to sit on the floor with her. You don't. You're leaning against the counter, and you say something about your knees, something about the tiles being cold, something that is true, but also isn't the reason. The reason. The real one. The one you didn't examine until much later, is that sitting on the floor with someone is an act of surrender. It is the posture of people who have decided to stop performing. And you were not ready to stop performing. You were 27, and you were still assembling the version of yourself that you thought the world required. And that version didn't sit on kitchen floors. Lebo didn't ask again. She finished her wine. She told you about the colleague. 3 months later, she moved to Cape Town, and you told people it was mutual, and it wasn't. It wasn't mutual at all. She had asked you to sit on the floor with her, and you had said no, and she had understood that answer better than you did. The hippo moves, not a shift this time. A full head shake, lateral, violent, the way a dog shakes a toy. Your body whips sideways and the canines rake across your back, and now you feel them, really feel them. And the neoprene parts, like wet paper. Something hot runs down your spine. You don't know if it's blood or saliva. Inside a hippo's mouth, the two are the same temperature. Sound. You haven't processed the sound until now. It is enormous. The jaw muscles engage and disengage with a wet, fibrous grinding. Tendons over bone, cartilage under pressure. It sounds like someone wringing out a heavy towel. Underneath that, the hippo's breathing, which comes in massive humid blasts from the back of the throat, and each exhalation coats your face in moisture that tastes like a swamp. And underneath even that, your own heartbeat, which you can hear because your ear is pressed against the animal's gum tissue, and the blood vessels there are so large that you can feel the hippo's pulse alongside your own. 2 heartbeats. Yours at 170. The hippo's at maybe 40. Resting. It is resting. This is a resting heart rate. You're inside the mouth of an animal that is not even excited. Your guide instinct fires absurdly. You find yourself composing the narration you would give a boat full of tourists if you were watching this from 20 meters away. What you're seeing here is a territorial display. The bull is asserting dominance over what he perceives as a threat. Notice the lateral head movement. That's characteristic of the Zambezi population. If you look at the dentition, you almost laugh again. You're narrating your own death in the third person, in the professional voice you use to describe mating rituals and feeding patterns. And the absurdity of it is so sharp it cuts through the pain. 60 seconds of consciousness left, maybe less. You think about your brother, Thabo, who is in Pretoria, who teaches mathematics at a secondary school, who calls you every second Sunday and asks the same 3 questions in the same order. Are you eating? Are you safe? When are you coming home? You have answered these questions with the same 3 lies for 11 years. Yes, yes, soon. The soon is the biggest lie because you have never intended to go home. Home is Nelspruit, and Nelspruit is your mother's kitchen and the ghost of a dog and the particular flavor of low-veld boredom that drove you to the river in the first place. But Thabo asks because Thabo is the kind of person who believes that asking is a form of keeping, that if he names the distance between you often enough, it will eventually collapse. He called last Sunday. You didn't pick up. You were on the river. You were always on the river. The hippo opens its mouth. Not all the way, a few centimeters, enough for light to strobe through the gap between the lower jaw and your hip. And you see, in a fractured instant, the brown water of the Zambezi and the aluminum hull of your boat 8 meters away, and the face of David, your backup guide, who is standing on the bow with a paddle raised over his head and his mouth open, in a shape that could be a shout or a prayer. Then, the mouth closes again, and the darkness returns, and you understand that this is the binary. The hippo will either open its mouth again, or it will bite down. This is the point of no return, and you know it, because you have seen this before. Not to a person, to a fiberglass kayak 2 years ago, a German tourist's rental that drifted into the bull's territory while the tourist was swimming near the bank. The hippo surfaced, took the kayak in its jaws, held it for 15 seconds. You timed it? You actually timed it, because you were still a scientist then, still a cataloger of phenomena. And then bit down. The kayak folded in half like a paperback book. The sound was like a car accident. The tourist was already on the bank by then, shaking, filming on his phone with the self-preservation instinct of a man who needed proof that his story was real. You had told him afterward, while he sat in the lodge bar drinking amarula with trembling hands, "They're herbivores. That was just a territorial display. They're herbivores. The jaw flexes, not a bite. A test. The pressure increases across your ribcage in a gradient. More on the left side where the canine is sitting against your latissimus dorsi. Less on the right where the jaw curves away from your body. You feel another rib go. This one you feel immediately. A hot specific snap, like a green branch breaking. And the pain fans out across your left side in a pattern you recognize from the first aid manual you teach from every January. Flail segment. 2 or more adjacent ribs broken in 2 places. Your left lung is compromised. You do the last calculation. Structural integrity, failing. Oxygen, critical. Rescue. David is 8 meters away with a paddle and good intentions, and neither of those things will open a hippo's mouth. Time. You have been inside for approximately 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The literature says that hippo attack survivors, the ones who were bitten and released, report a hold duration of 60 to 90 seconds. You are past that window. You are in the 3-minute territory now. The 3-minute stories don't get told by the person they happen to. Your body decides for you. Your right hand, the one pressed against the inner lip, pushes. Not with strength, there's no strength left, but with the blind cellular urgency of an organism that is not ready to stop being an organism. You push, and your fingers slip against the mucous membrane, and you push again, and you feel the lip move, barely, a centimeter. And through that centimeter, you feel air, outside air, dry, hot. 38 degrees Celsius, which is the same temperature as the inside of the mouth, which means you can't actually tell the difference. But your brain decides it can, and that decision is enough. The hippo opens its mouth. It is not a rescue. It is a reload. The jaw opens to reposition, the way a snake adjusts its grip before swallowing. And in that half second of open air and blinding light, you fall. Sideways out of the mouth into the Zambezi, and the water hits you like a slab, and the river takes you immediately because the current here runs at 6 knots and you are not swimming, you are drowning with your eyes open. The water is brown. 23 degrees, visibility 0. You're on your back and you can see the sky, flat white, the particular overexposed sky of the Zambezi Valley in October. And you can see blood, your blood, fanning out from your body in the current like a cape. Your left side is wrong. The ribs have collapsed inward, and your breathing is a wet, asymmetric thing. The right lung inflates, the left one doesn't. You feel it bubbling. Pneumothorax, air in the pleural space. You know this word because you have taught wilderness first response for 9 years, and you have used this word in PowerPoint presentations with stock photos of people who are not you. David reaches you in 11 seconds. He is in the water, his arm around your chest, and the pain of being held is so absolute that you hear yourself scream for the first time. A real scream, not the container failure sound from before, but the full-throated sound of an animal that is being touched where it is broken. He drags you to the boat. He pulls you over the gunwale. The aluminum edge catches your hip, and you feel the skin tear, but it doesn't matter, because your body has moved past the cataloging of individual injuries and into a general systemic understanding that it has been damaged in a way that will require months to rebuild, if it rebuilds. You are on the floor of the boat. The sun is on your face. Your left side is a continent of pain. You can hear David on the radio. Batoka base, Batoka base. This is River 2. I have a code red. I say again, code red. Hippo attack. Requesting medevac from GPS 15.98 south, 25.86 east. Copy. And his voice is calm because you trained him to be calm. Because you taught him the protocol. Because you wrote the protocol. Because you are the person who looked at this stretch of river and said, "This is safe enough." The sky is white. Your breathing sounds like a broken accordion. You can taste the hippo's mouth, that chemical rot, that fermenting vegetable darkness, and you will taste it for months. It will surface at unexpected moments, in the shower, in the queue, at ShopRite, in the middle of the night when you wake up and don't know where your arms are. The taste will outlast the scars. You think about Lebo, the kitchen floor. You think, if someone asked you to sit on a kitchen floor right now, you would do it. You would sit on every floor, in every kitchen, in every city in the world. You would sit on the floor of this boat. You are, in fact, sitting on the floor of this boat, and it is the most honest posture you have ever held. 3 ribs broken, left lung collapsed, lacerations to the back and torso requiring 140 stitches, muscle damage to the trapezius and latissimus dorsi, nerve damage to the left arm that will take 14 months to partially resolve, a scar across your lower back shaped like a parenthesis, the exact curve of a hippo's canine, mapped onto your body like a signature. You will fly to Lusaka. You will spend 9 days in the ICU. Thabo will fly from Pretoria, and he will sit next to your bed, and he will not ask the 3 questions. He will just sit. He will sit on the floor next to the bed when the chairs get uncomfortable, and he will not mention it. Your mother will call from Nelspruit, and she will say something that sounds like, "I told you," but means "I love you," because those are the same sentence in the language your family actually speaks. You will not go back to the river. You will say you might. You will say, "Once I've healed, and maybe next season, and I just need time." And these will be the same lie as soon, just wearing different clothes. The river is done with you, or you are done with it. The grammar doesn't matter, only the result. In the hospital on the 3rd night, a nurse will adjust your IV, and the fluorescent light above your bed will flicker, and in that flicker, you will see the darkness again. The absolute wet, living darkness of the inside of the mouth. And your heart rate will spike to 160, and the monitor will alarm, and people will come. The nurse will say, "It's okay, you're safe, it's just the light." And you will nod because you cannot explain that it is not the light. It is the darkness. It is the understanding that you spent 2 minutes and 30 seconds inside another living thing's decision about whether you would continue to exist, and the living thing decided yes, and you will never know why. The bull hippo will remain in his territory. He will surface and submerge. He will yawn, displaying the canines. 50 centimeters long, self-sharpening, growing continuously until death. The ivory parentheses that held you, and tourists on other boats, will photograph the yawn and post it with captions like "Big Mood" and "Monday Energy." And the guide on those boats will lean forward and say, in that same warm, calibrated tone that you perfected over 11 years and 4,000 repetitions, "They're herbivores." 6 weeks after your discharge, a doctoral student from the University of Zambia will contact you. She is studying hippo-human conflict on the Zambezi. She wants your account. She will ask you to describe the inside of the mouth, and you will be silent for 11 seconds. She will note this in her recording, and then you will say, "It was dark." She will wait for more. There will be nothing more. The darkness is the entire story. Everything else, and the smell, the pressure, the fractured ribs, the taste, is just the darkness wearing details. 7 months later, a South African tourist on a canoe safari will drift too close to a pod in the same stretch of river. A different bull, same territory. The guide on that trip will be new, 23 years old. FGESA Level 2. Enthusiastic, underpaid. He will see the tourist's nervous face, and he will smile, and he will say, the sentence that every guide on every river in every country where hippos live has said, is saying, will say, because it is true and it is comforting, and it is the most dangerous sentence in African wildlife tourism. They're herbivores. The river doesn't care. The river has been here for 2 million years. The hippos have been here for 8 million. The guides and the tourists and the aluminum boats and the GPS coordinates and the medevac protocols are a blip, a statistical anomaly, a minor annotation in the margins of a river that will outlast every person who has ever tried to narrate it. Nixwat leaf is Jun Nie. Nothing that lives is yours. Not the dog, not the woman on the kitchen floor, not the brother who calls every Sunday, not the river, not even the body you thought you owned until a 2,000-kilogram herbivore held it in its mouth and gave it back for reasons you will spend the rest of your life not understanding. That wraps it up for today. The story you just heard is fiction, but hippos really do kill more people in Africa than any other large animal, somewhere between 500 and 3,000 per year, and most of the survivors will tell you the same thing. The worst part wasn't the pain, it was the darkness. If this one hit you different, drop a comment and tell me which moments stayed with you. I've got more deep dives like this coming, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. See you in the next one.